to New Jersey, they must offer some kind of ecological significance and must not be considered invasive species. A Jersey-friendly yard can be a family effort or a community effort or a school effort. And importantly, a Jersey-friendly yard has a purpose and it begins with a plan. So dream big, but start small. This small park in Pine Beach in Ocean County is right next to the Toms River. And the folks who live there enjoy the scenery on maybe the morning walk or an evening jog. So to beautify the area, volunteers began by addressing the soil, and they started by adding lots of compost and mulch to soften up that very hard and rocky substrate. And then they began to plant natives, such as these really beautiful asters and goldenrod, as well as milkweed and lots of native grasses. And the garden has since grown into a colorful native demonstration garden for the entire community to enjoy. This Jersey-friendly schoolyard offers a picnic area and a shady outdoor learning space. A mix of flowers, native shrubs, and grasses create areas for learning and provide food and cover for wildlife. A bird bath also attracts and supports wildlife. This library in Island Heights in Ocean County renovated their foundation garden, removing invasive species and replanting the bed with flowering perennials that attract and support pollinators. The school children in walking distance from the library come to learn about the pollinators that are attracted to the native plants, and visitors enjoy the beauty offered by this Jersey-friendly landscape that also acts as a demonstration garden. This homeowner enhanced the foundation around her house by planting a row of native shrubs called inkberry holly. The leaves are evergreen, deer-resistant, and tolerate both sun and shade. The ink-colored berries ripen in the fall and provide food for birds throughout the winter. Inkberry holly is an excellent native replacement for invasive species such as Japanese barberry and burning bush. Replacing invasive species with natives creates a healthier landscape. Garden beds can be a wonderful component to a Jersey-friendly yard, vegetable garden beds. Although the edible fruits and vegetables in these raised beds, they may or may not be native, the supplemental native flowering perennials attract the pollinators necessary for fertilization to take place to ensure a bountiful harvest. So how do you begin creating your own Jersey-friendly yard? Well, involve the entire family. Involve the entire school or community in your plan. Dream big, but start small. Look for inspiration from other gardens. Establish a purpose and function for your garden or landscape. Write down all your ideas and sketch or draw them out. Share the work and the fun and involve others in your garden plans. Planning a garden together can strengthen family bonds, build friendships with neighbors, and create a sense of community within the school or community network. As I said, dream big, but start small. Although it's important to start small when breaking ground, it's also important to dream big when you're assembling your ideas. Even though you may only start with a small 4x4 raised bed or maybe some container gardens or a mass of bulbs and a few benches, keep your grand vision in mind, even though it may not come to fruition until several years down the road. The garden will grow with your family, the school, or the community. You want everyone to feel successful and to also have fun while gardening. So start small. But having your grand vision in mind will keep you, your family, and your community members moving forward each successive year. If you're not sure where to begin, look for inspiration from other sources. If you know you want to build a garden, but you're not quite sure what kind of garden or how big or which plants to select or maybe what your overall vision is, get some inspiration from other gardens. Visit the Success Stories pages on the Jersey Friendly Yards website, located in the drop-down menu under Create a Jersey Friendly Yard. The Jersey Friendly Yards Success Stories page offers links to other gardens, offers the who, what, where, how, and why. It offers plant species selection, along with before and after photos. So scrolling down the page, click on any of these links to see beautiful lawn to garden transformations of home, business, and community spaces. And click on the Ocean County pilot project link to see Jersey-friendly yards, gardens, and landscapes installed by various constituents with the guidance of the Ocean County Soil Conservation District. For example, this garden was installed at a branch of Ocean First Bank. It was designed to be a Jersey-friendly demonstration garden to educate the public about beautiful native plant choices they can plant at home. And it was also created to be an extension of the surrounding ecosystem, as this property is adjacent to public open green space. Plants were selected based on high wildlife value. And in fact, while we were installing this garden, a Luna moth fluttered into the newly established plants. The garden included flowers that are attractive to pollinators, such as purple coneflower, black-eyed Susan, butterfly weed, and balloon flower. Another way to look for inspiration is to take a walk or a hike around the nearest public land space to a nearby park or visit a formal garden. Take pictures or sketch what you see in a notebook. Jot down ideas you would like to incorporate in your own yard. This display, captioned "Third Grade Appreciates Their Environment," shows student artwork and photos of habitat and wildlife. Discuss with your family or community members an overall purpose of the garden or landscape that you would like to create. Your overall purpose will influence where you place your garden or how you design your landscape, as well as the plant species you select. Do you want to create a windbreak or privacy screen with the plants? Are you planting for aesthetic reasons, to beautify the yard, or perhaps to hide an unsightly air conditioner or other machinery? Do you want to create a shady spot to take lunch or read a book outside? Do you want to focus on supporting wildlife in the garden? Do you want a garden that educates the public in some way? Or how about a space where your family or community members can retreat to be with their thoughts and appreciate nature? Think about the overall purpose of your garden or landscape. What will it offer you and your family, and how will it connect the community to your organization's overall mission? How about your garden's functionality? Think about your landscape. How will it function to support your purpose? Is there an area in the yard that is too wet or too dry? Is the home or building on a slope, causing runoff, erosion, loss of soil, and lack of water infiltrating the soil? Is there a nearby stream that receives pollutants from fertilizer runoff that would benefit from a buffer garden? Is the lot infested with invasive species and needs restoration? Do you want to be able to attract and support wildlife in your yard or on community property? Do you want to create a natural corridor to allow for safe passage of wildlife between spaces? This native plant wildlife garden was designed by an Eagle Scout. The Scout selected drought-tolerant plants that like sandy, acidic soil and attract pollinators, including butterflies and bees, and that provide food for monarch caterpillars and berries and seeds for birds. On this garden map, photos of each plant are placed where they will be planted. Each photo is accompanied by both the common name and scientific name of the plant. And here is the planted garden at Cloverdale Farm in Barnegat in Ocean County, displaying the garden design in the back and complete with the stepping stones and the bird feeder platform as reflected on the plan. Another example is the Monmouth County Library, Ocean Township branch. It had a large area of patchy lawn. The library spoke with a professional consultant to help put together a garden plan. They discussed the creation of a useful, educational, and beautiful setting with drought-tolerant plants needing minimal irrigation. They also wanted to capture runoff at the bottom of the sloping property. They installed the garden in 2 stages. In the first stage, they called the library setting near the building, was installed in the spring of 2010. The second stage, called the lowland habitat, was planted in the spring of 2011 and includes a rain garden. Large areas of lawn were replaced with the help of volunteers from the community. By selecting native plants and placing them in groups based on water needs and sun exposure, the design met the goal of minimal irrigation. The plants have knit together into soft ribbons of green, blossoming in the summer and then changing color in the fall. This project won the Community Greening Award from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society and the Operation Wildflower Award in the category of Civic Projects with Native Plants from the National Garden Club. This small home garden was created to troubleshoot erosion caused by rain from the drain spout that washed away the sandy soil as the water ran down the sloping front yard. The installation of this small garden captured the water, prevented the soil erosion, and also redirected the water back down into the ground instead of losing the water to the storm drain. Together with your family or community members, form a group or committee and discuss all ideas. Begin to sketch and write out a plan. Be sure to involve ideas from everyone, however big or small, so everyone feels a personal connection to the garden project. A site map of the entire property will offer an overall perspective, whereas a plot plan just showing the garden or area where you will be gardening or landscaping helps to focus your attention on a smaller space. On your sketch, include components such as a compass rose showing cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. Draw in the pathway the sun takes as it travels across your yard. Mark which spots are sunny and which are shady, and for how many hours in the day. And this will influence your plant selection, as some plants need full sun, at least 6 hours of direct sun per day. Some plants prefer part shade, 4 hours, and some plants prefer shade less than 4 hours of sun per day. This garden design covers a 200 square foot bed on the property of another Ocean First bank. Smaller species were placed at the corners, with the tallest species in the center. Plants were arranged so that as the seasons change, flowers bloom throughout the garden, much like a natural meadow. And here's the garden in late spring, and here it is in midsummer. And it retains its beauty in the autumn as well. And here is Karen proudly displaying our Jersey Friendly Yard sign. This garden won the Garden of Distinction Award from the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. This class displayed their garden plan for their school, along with their inspired artwork. Before you get too far along on your garden plan, you will want to select appropriate plants. However, before you select the plants, you'll need to focus your attention on the soil. And don't treat your soil like dirt. It's the foundation of your garden. One of the most important steps in the process of planning a garden is to fully understand your soil. Encourage your family, students, or community members to get to know the soil. And you can start by conducting some soil tests. The physical, chemical, and biological properties of your soil will have a direct influence on the species of plants you will choose to grow. Set a few hours aside and invite your family, students, or community members to explore the soil. What color is the soil? How does the soil smell? How does it feel in your hands? Is it wet or dry? Is it soft and crumbly or hard and grainy? What is your soil's texture? Is it sand, silt, clay, or a loamy combination? Collect some soil, put it in a jar with some water, shake, and let the soil particles settle for 24 hours. The larger sand grains will fall to the bottom first, followed by smaller particles of silt, and then finally the microscopic particles of clay, all forming layers. Estimate the percentage of sand, silt, and clay in your soil sample, and use a soil texture pyramid to determine the overall texture of the soil. For example, your soil sample in the jar equals 100%, and using your eye, you can see that about 70% at the bottom is sand, about 20% is silt, and about 10% is clay. And where those numbers meet on the soil texture triangle indicates that you have a sandy loam soil texture. Some plants like sandy soil, like this native ground cover called bearberry, but it won't tolerate clay soils. It's important to know your soil texture so your plants are happy and your garden is successful. Plants are also picky about the soil pH and the soil moisture. Send a soil sample to your local cooperative extension or send it to Rutgers Soil Testing Lab to test the pH. And the link can be found on the Jersey Friendly Yards website under the Create a Jersey Friendly Yards tab. Choose the 8 steps to a Jersey Friendly Yard in the drop-down menu, and then go to step 2, Start with Healthy Soil webpage. The Rutgers Soil Testing Lab will also test the nutrients contained in your soil, and this information will help you select appropriate plants for the conditions in your yard. The soil test results you receive from the Rutgers lab contain graphs showing your pH values, as well as the macro and micronutrient levels in your soil, and they also include recommendations regarding possible amendments needed. So armed with this information and knowledge about your site's conditions, including soil texture, soil nutrients, soil pH, available moisture in the soil, and available sunlight, you can log on to the Jersey Friendly Yards database, and using the searchable filters, you can start selecting plant species appropriate for the conditions in your garden that also support your garden's purpose and function. Plants plan to conserve water. Water is one of our most precious resources, yet we waste so much of it. More than 7 billion gallons of fresh water are used in the United States every day to irrigate landscapes, and as much as 50% of that water is wasted. When planting your garden, think about ways you can conserve water in your yard. To conserve water in your garden, go native. The robust and deep root systems of native plants are efficient at taking up water from the soil, enabling native plants to thrive with little, if any, supplemental watering. These extensive root systems also provide pathways through the soil for rainwater to move down into the ground, helping to replenish the soil's water reserves. Notice the shallow lawn roots on the far left, only a few inches long. These Kentucky bluegrass roots are not nearly as efficient at taking up water. Use the Jersey Friendly Yards plant database to choose the native plants best suited to your light and soil conditions. Unless you are planting in an area with consistently moist or wet soil, selecting drought-tolerant plants will improve your chances of a successful garden. These drought-tolerant plants, sheep laurel, horse mint, blue giant hyssop, and butterfly weed, are all also deer-resistant. Deer-resistant plants typically contain secondary plant compounds that deter browse by herbivores or insects. Some may also be poisonous to humans, so please also consider plant toxicity when selecting plants for your garden. To conserve the most water and keep watering chores to a minimum, plant drought-tolerant species in your yard. Use native ground covers as a living mulch to protect soil moisture levels. Ground covers provide multiple benefits. They shade the soil and reduce evaporation, moderate soil temperatures, suppress the growth of weeds, prevent soil erosion, and provide habitat for wildlife. These native ground covers, bearberry, pussy toes, Pennsylvania sedge, and Maryland golden aster, are also drought tolerant. All gardens need to be watered when first planted, with the goal of water conservation as the garden matures. Even drought-tolerant plants will need water in the first couple of years until they get established. When planning the location of your garden or landscape plantings, consider how easy it is to access water. Is there a spigot nearby? Is there already an irrigation system in place? Alternatively, or in addition to irrigation, you may want to install rain barrels. A rain barrel connected to the downspout of the building, the shed, or smaller structure collects water you can use to water your garden plants. You can connect an irrigation hose to the spigot on the barrel or fill watering cans to bring water to your garden. Rainwater is soft water containing no chlorine or minerals, which makes it ideal for watering plants. You can also conserve water in any lawn areas you maintain. Minimize lawn watering needs by seeding or reseeding with grass species resistant to drought. Turf-type tall fescue species are a good choice since they require little watering once established. Mow high. A minimum of 3 inches is recommended for most cool season grasses. Keeping turf at the proper height shades grass roots, reduces evaporation of soil moisture, and encourages the growth of deeper roots, resulting in a more drought-resistant turf. Use mulching mowers and leave the grass clippings, which provide a natural source of organic matter that helps suppress weeds and keep plant roots moist while also providing nutrients. This is a diagram of the interactive yard, a tool on the Jersey Friendly Yards website. And you can transform your yard to this Jersey Friendly yard. Plan to use less fertilizer. This is an excellent opportunity to teach students about nutrients and based on your soil test results to determine if you really need to add any nutrient fertilizers or not. Addressing the use of fertilizers in yards and other properties is one of the main reasons why the Jersey Friendly Yards website was created, to stop the excess flow of chemical fertilizers that wash off the landscape in rainwater or irrigation water, enter the storm drain, and end up in our creeks, our rivers, and our bay. This photo shows a bloom of algae in the Barnegat Bay. Fertilizer that finds its way into our rivers and our lakes and our bay fuels the too rapid and harmful growth of algae and other aquatic plant life. And sometimes the growth is so explosive, it creates an algae bloom with millions of organisms discoloring the water. This excessive growth causes an unhealthy increase in the amount of organic matter within a water body, a process called eutrophication. As excessive plant growth dies, its decay uses up oxygen in the water, which can then lead to fish kills. The death of large numbers of fish when oxygen levels drop too low for them to survive. Certain harmful algal blooms release powerful toxins into the water that cause health problems for people and their pets and raise treatment costs for drinking water. Over-fertilizing is not only harmful to water bodies, it can also be harmful to our garden plants. Too much fertilizer can cause a buildup of harmful salts in the soil. Over application of one or two nutrients can create an imbalance in the soil, making other important nutrients less available to plants. And too much nitrogen encourages rapid spikes in vegetative growth, which can stress a plant when the slower growing roots are not able to keep up with the new growth's water and nutrient needs. Insect pests like aphids are attracted to the new growth and can quickly multiply on over-fertilized plants. And plants under stress from any of these things become more susceptible to damaging plant diseases. So choose native plants that match the conditions at the planting location, whether at home or in the community, and you won't need to add fertilizers. Through thousands of years of evolution, native plants have adapted to local soil conditions, including the availability of nutrients. With their healthy root systems, they excel at taking in the nutrients they need to grow and thrive without the need for any amendments. There are about 40 million acres of lawn in the United States. Turf grass has become our largest crop, with millions of pounds of fossil fuel-derived lawn fertilizers used every year in the United States. Here are some things we can do in our yards and communities. Replace lawn with native plant lawn alternatives, like the Pennsylvania sedge shown in this photo. Leave grass clippings on the lawn, which provide as much as 50% of the nitrogen required for a healthy lawn as they decompose. Seed and reseed with low-maintenance grass species. Tall fescues and fine fescues grow well with less nitrogen than Kentucky bluegrass and perennial ryegrass species. Try seeding the lawn with micro clover, smaller varieties of white clover. All clovers are legumes. Through a symbiotic relationship with rhizobium soil bacteria, legumes can transform atmospheric nitrogen gas into an organic form of nitrogen that can be used by plants. Microclover blends with turf grass and fixes nitrogen and enriches the soil. It also adds diversity to lawns, and its flowers provide food for bees. Plan to reduce pesticide use. Before you assume you have pests in the garden, find out who lives there, and then support the good bugs, who are the true heroes of the garden. A bug bioblitz is one way to discover what kinds of insects are living in your yard. Head out with the nets, the hand lenses, the bug viewers or cameras, and conduct a survey of your bugs. Caterpillars provide opportunities for exploration and discovery, whether at home or in a community or school garden. Many teachers raise butterflies in the classroom or tag butterflies. Native plants have evolved natural defenses to the pests and diseases around them. By choosing a diversity of native plants for your garden projects, you can create a healthy ecosystem in your yard and avoid the use of pesticides in your landscape. To support how nature controls pest populations, tolerate low numbers of pests in order to feed and maintain naturally occurring beneficial insects. Improper use of pesticides can harm the beneficial insects that keep pests under control, and overuse can result in pests developing resistance, making it even more difficult to control them. When planning your landscape, mix plants of various heights, different layers of vegetation, from trees to shrubs to ground cover. They all offer a variety of cover types and nesting sites for beneficial insects, birds, and other wildlife that keep harmful pests in check. And these are some butterflies you may attract to your pollinator garden, along with some milkweed bugs. Due to the loss of natural habitats in the wild and the widespread use of pesticides, bees, butterflies, and other pollinators are in trouble. By planting a variety of natives and limiting pesticide use in your Jersey-friendly yard, you can provide much-needed healthy habitat for pollinators and help reverse the decline in their populations. Plan your lawn size. Think about the size of your lawn at home or at the school or at your community property that you're focusing on. Is there a lot? Is there a little or no lawn? If there is too much unused lawn, you might want to consider replacing some of it with a garden. Or you can landscape the lawn with trees and shrubs, and it will reduce mowing, reduce fertilizer, and reduce chemical inputs. This homeowner converted her entire front lawn to a pollinator garden. To convert lawn to a garden bed, you first need to squelch the lawn. And one approach that you can take is to smother the lawn with layers of organic material that will slowly decompose, adding nutrients to the soil and effectively killing the lawn. And here, Lisa and Ray are creating a new bed for a butterfly garden at Jakes Branch County Park in Ocean County. They delineated the area of the intended bed and then covered the space with hay. And then they covered the hay with cardboard. And then they covered the cardboard with compost and added a thick layer of mulch. And then it sat for the winter. Pollinator-friendly and deer-resistant plants, including many from the mint family, were installed the following spring, and a split rail fence was erected and the garden began to grow. And so far, this highly mulched butterfly garden has been very low maintenance for the park staff, beneficial to pollinators, and resistant to deer. Using this approach, this gardener's yard bloomed into a beautiful pollinator garden the following year. Those large shrub-like plants in the front are wild bergamot, and this gardener has a variety of mountain mint, milkweed, and goldenrod, along with purple coneflower, blue lobelia, Helen's flower, and many other pollinator-friendly flowers and shrubs and trees. Plan for wildlife habitat. One of the reasons so many of us are turning to native gardens and landscapes is because of the loss of natural habitat in the wild, which leads to diminishing populations of butterflies and birds and bats and turtles and frogs and toads, and eventually leads to the extinction of these species. Include wildlife habitat in your garden plan and invite these beautiful creatures to your yard. Select native plants for your garden, install human-made features in your landscape, and mimic nature as much as possible to create appropriate habitat for wildlife. Wildlife get everything they need from their natural environment, including food, water, shelter, protection, and a place to raise their family. Determine how you can support these basic needs in your landscape or garden. Nest boxes, bird feeders, bird baths strategically placed near a window or in a quiet, protected area will not only provide important resources for birds and wildlife, they also provide opportunities for observations. When people are offered the chance to see and experience beautiful birds and butterflies, they will be inspired to create more opportunities for enjoyment for their family and for their neighbors. Human-made features such as bird baths, bird feeders, and nest boxes, together with your flowers, shrubs, and trees, can add high wildlife value to your garden. Eastern screech owl populations are declining due to the lack of old tree cavities they need for nesting. Invite an eastern screech owl to live in your yard or community landscape by installing a nest box. Due to their nocturnal behavior, we don't often see them, but with a nest box within sight of your kitchen window, you can observe the owl at dawn and dusk, and if you're lucky, you can watch a pair raise a family of owlets. Build a brush pile to offer shelter and protection for smaller songbirds from predators such as owls and hawks. This Cooper's hawk was foiled by the brush pile this time, but she'll be back. Leaving brown stems standing throughout the winter provides a seed source for birds and habitat for beneficial insects. A garden that invites and supports wildlife is inherently a rich space for observing, wondering, teaching, and learning. Your children's interest or the interests of community members may guide the direction you take in your garden plan or landscape design, whether it's adding a brush pile or bird feeder, or selecting plants that attract butterflies. Opportunities for learning, enjoyment, and connecting with others abound in a wildlife garden. Add a sign to your home garden or community garden that offers an educational opportunity for others and inspires them to attract wildlife to their yard as well. Offer tours of your community garden to encourage others to get involved in rewilding our backyards and community landscapes. And plan to reduce, reuse, recycle. And we may all be familiar with the slogan, reduce, reuse, recycle. Let's see how Jersey Friendly Yards incorporates these important concepts in a garden setting. Ideas include reusing and repurposing human-made materials and incorporating them into your garden, and recycling nature-made materials into garden compost and mulch. Ignite your creativity by thinking of ways to repurpose old items in the garden. This Jersey-friendly gardener is a very creative and clever person at coming up with ways to repurpose all kinds of items and materials in the garden. Here she planted common milkweed, and the plants were growing and stretching towards the sunlight, and she needed to corral them. So she placed an old iron bed frame around the milkweed, and it serves the intended purpose and adds a special touch to the garden space. Old shoes and an old tire make interesting container gardens. More iron bed frames, cement and clay lawn ornaments, all salvaged on bulk trash day, make excellent garden decor. And I think the kids would have fun with Godzilla hiding in the garden. A broken pot turned upside down, topped with a chipped plate filled with marbles. Add water, and it's an instant hydration station for thirsty insects. These items offer both function and beauty, and were also rescued from the landfill. And these students in Egg Harbor Township painted old tires and installed them as a border for their school garden. Nature naturally recycles. Take a cue from nature and recycle natural materials in your yard through composting. Composting means gathering together organic materials, adding water, mixing in air, and then let the soil organisms break down the carbon molecules and turn them back into soil. This compost bin is located at the Save Barnegat Bay Eco Center in Toms River. In the fall, leave some leaves in your garden beds to provide an insulating blanket for your plants and to provide a safe place for insects to overwinter. And then add any other leaves to your compost pile. Compost materials can include either strictly leaves, sticks, and other forest vegetation that you rake up from your yard, or you can also add vegetable food scraps from the kitchen. All additions to the compost bin, especially the food scraps, should be buried. The compost bin should be mixed periodically to incorporate oxygen into the decomposing organic matter. Moisture should be added unless the compost bin is already open to the elements. And if properly installed and used, a compost bin will be 100% odor-free and attract minimal, if any, pests. And in the chat, we'll add some excellent Rutgers fact sheets on composting. Mulch is another way we can recycle natural materials. Mulch shades the soil and reduces evaporation, moderates soil temperatures, suppresses the growth of weeds, and prevents soil erosion. Typically, mulch depth should be no more than 2 to 4 inches. If you are mulching around trees, I beg you, please don't create a volcano. It suffocates the tree roots, leading to an early death of the tree. Leave airspace to have circulation between mulch and the base of trees and shrubs. Mulch helps to get the garden established but beware of creating a mulch garden, meaning just a carpet of mulch and very few plants. Grow many plants close together to create shade over the soil and inhibit the growth of the weeds. In conclusion, planning a garden can be lots of fun for you, for your family, for your school, and for your community. Visit the Jersey Friendly Yards website and explore the 8 steps to a Jersey Friendly Yard to help you get started. And have fun attracting pollinators and supporting wildlife and enjoying the beauty of your Jersey Friendly Yard. Use the Jersey Friendly Yards plant database to select your plants based on the conditions of your site. And thanks so much, everyone, for attending tonight's program. And here's our contact information, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have for us.
Sorry, Becky, I'm seeing a couple excellent presentations. There were some questions that were in the chat, and I unfortunately answered them and didn't copy the question ahead. So there were some specific people were asking for some specific plant recommendations for deer resistance, and I put in some a fact sheet from Rutgers, but there's also Karen put in there the database has the deer resistant. You can search for deer resistant plants. So that was in there. And Olala pots, Olea pots. It's something I didn't know. I had to look it up. It's a type of clay pot that you can use for watering. So there's a chat, or there's an extension from Arizona that uses them. So
excellent. Yes, I've heard of them
nesting
before.
boxes. Somebody's asking about nesting boxes. Where can you find nesting boxes?
Well, certainly you can go to Wild Birds Unlimited is I guess a specialty store for bird products, and they certainly sell nest boxes. I would think that you can probably purchase them at any, big box store. However, if you want to do it yourself, they're not too difficult to make. If you have access to wood and somebody with a saw, you can easily Google websites such as Cornell Lab of Ornithology. They have a program called Nest Watch, and you can use their specs. They offer specifications to building different nest boxes, and different birds require different size nest boxes, and specifically different, the hole leading to the cavity of the box has to be a certain size for different birds. Smaller birds prefer a smaller hole so that larger birds can't get in there and kick them out. And we certainly do want to deter invasive species such as European starlings from taking over nest boxes. So for eastern bluebird boxes, for example, you have to make the hole just right to prevent them from coming in. But that information is widely available, and if you can even put one nest box up, I encourage you to do so. Try to get it up by, I would say, end of February, even early March, because believe it or not, birds, that early in the spring start looking for nesting spaces, especially our songbirds that are here all winter. And then the migratory birds will come and start checking out the boxes as well. So the earlier you can get them up when the soil is unfrozen, the better.
Sorry, I'm typing it. I didn't realize I was unmuted still. I'm trying to type in the box, the nesting for the Cornell. This is Educator's Guide, but I did put it in. I'm putting it in the chat. So if you go on that website, you can get to the Cornell laboratory easier than trying to type all that in.
Yeah.
Dr. Steve put in the chat, Rutgers Cooperative Extension Wildlife Program has plans for bat boxes if you're feeling adventurous, and there is that website as well. So lots of websites in the chat.
Wonderful, thank you.
And do you guys make the chat available after for class, or I guess if there's anything that's on there, I don't know if it's in the website. If not website programs.
I believe, if I'm understanding your question, I think Karen is able to save the chat afterwards. So if there's any questions we haven't answered, I don't know how we'd reach out to people, but we can remember them for the next webinar in our series and answer those questions at that time. We should have just a question webinar.
Sometimes that's good, but there's lots of questions,
lots of questions
all over the place.
But our email, let me change the slide too, so you can see our email addresses right there. So I'm at education@soildistrict.org. Feel free to send me your question if we haven't answered it tonight, and Karen as well, kwalser@ocean.edu. We're happy to answer your questions.
A couple thank yous rolling in on the chat there for you.
So welcome, and thank you everyone for attending tonight. We always appreciate your support, and please do visit Jersey Friendly Yards website, jerseyyards.org, and explore our plant database, our 8 steps to a Jersey Friendly Yard, all kinds of tools and wonderful information on our website.
And lots of resources sometimes where, where to find some of the plants, and you do have to search a little bit, not on the website so much as as out there in the public when you're looking for native plants. Yeah. You find bits and pieces. Sometimes you find a lot. So
yeah, we do have a location on the website where we offer you by county. We list different nurseries by county that sell native plants, or at least sell some native plants among their stock.
And Stephen mentioned, thank you, we're looking to do some aggressive lawn killing this year. And then he put in lawn transformation, not killing, transformation. So
that's, yeah. Not all lawn is bad. A little lawn is good, for kids playing in the lawn, pets needing the lawn. We absolutely understand that. But if there's too much lawn that's not being used, why not, start small, start either taking out the lawn. One approach I didn't provide, I have to get my photos together. I tried it last year in my own garden. I rented a sod cutter and cut, pieces of my lawn, rolled them up, and then I had an instant garden bed. So that's another way to do that. And actually one of the earlier photos of the Ocean First Bank, where the Luna moth came and visited our newly planted garden, that photo was showing newly cut sod garden, 200 square foot. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Cut that sod. It's heavy, rolling up that sod. But that's another way to create an instant garden bed.
And so for those people that were talking about lawns and dandelions, you can eat dandelions, you can eat purslane. There are quite a few things that you can eat out of your lawn, but again, we don't think of those as our we don't think our lawn as our vegetable garden. But down in South Jersey, they have the dandelion festival, and you get to make dandelion wine or taste it also. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's neat. Excellent. Yeah.
I prefer the garden over the lawn. I'm just reiterating, it can be a good thing.
Good. I am seeing somebody say, can you kill the lawn in late winter, early spring in time to plant natives in spring, summer? I'd give it a try. I have a lot of cardboard kind of lying around here that I have the intention of going out and putting it on the lawn. The lawn's not growing yet, so you can still, smother it. You can get a hold of some mulch from your township or your county. Your natives that you plant in the spring, you may have to, purchase the plants versus seeding. There might still be time. I'm one of those lazy gardeners too. I haven't put all the seed out that I want to, and native, seeds need a stratification period. So it's early February. There might still be time. Just give it a try, see what happens.
Yeah, and I just Lisa mentioned that it's kind of hard to work with mulch this time of the year. However, we do get some warm days, and the weather's changing, and we're getting closer to spring. So there will be some times that you can maybe work in small sections at a time to kill the lawn without having to use an herbicide. it's what it's going to be what it is. You know, I've heard different methods. I like the cardboard that really works with the mulch. The other one is I have heard of silage tarps. So if you have to repurpose plastic tarps, the black like sign tarps that you can put that down, but you again, I would depends on how big you want to do it, but that would be Lisa put in the chat here that it's like solarizing the soil with clear plastic, killing the lawn. It takes some time. You leave it on for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then you pull it off and kind of go through the steps of then creating and breaking up that hard soil that might be underneath there now, turning it over.
Yeah, so Sue was mentioning Lisa a couple of times. So Lisa, you all saw Lisa in our program. She was with Ray creating that layering in the Jake's Branch butterfly garden. And Lisa is also one of our Jersey friendly gardeners and a master naturalist. Always excited to have our constituents come join us for our programs. We always appreciate all the support. Great. So I guess we'll wrap it up tonight. Again, everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us. And please come to our next program. I'll give our next webinar a plug. We're doing one a month, and our next webinar will be on March 8th. So it's always the second Tuesday evening of the month. And as I said earlier, we're going back to basics. We're going to follow the 8 steps to a Jersey friendly yard. Tonight was plan before you plant. Next week is start with healthy soil, step 2. So we're going to talk all about soil. Don't treat your soil like dirt. So love your soil, embrace it, and come back next month on March 8th at 7 p.m. We'll see you there. Thanks, everyone.